is about.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I can edit anything in and out, like once I save this. So, all right, should be recording to the cloud.
To the cloud.
Yeah, man. Finally upgraded my Zoom account from the free version to getting the recording on the phone and
nice.
And the cloud storage. So I guess, Derek, I mean, we've chatted before. I'm just curious, like, your story is very fascinating. I know, because you were in real estate before. I guess tell me a little bit more of like what you did maybe 5-10 years ago of your first business.
Yeah, dude, you know what? First, I just want to say thanks for being here, man. Like, this is what I love about life, is just connecting with people, because you're all the way over in Virginia. I'm here in Colorado, and all that may be in the States, right? I had a call with a woman from Puerto Rico and a guy from Mexico this last weekend, and that's one of the things I love about the internet world, man. And
That's dope.
It's so dope, right? I love that piece, man. So, I'll tell you, man, it's obviously 2020, right? And I'm not big on setting New Year's resolutions or anything of that nature, but I'm always big on, at least coming up with a new motto for the year. And, and I really had to do some serious soul searching at the end of this last year. And I'll get into that, because where I came from obviously leads me to where I'm at. And, basically the nutshell, man, I've been an entrepreneur for 21 years, not including, 7, 8, 9, when I was shoveling sidewalks and mowing lawns and raking leaves and delivering newspapers and all that stuff. But just, and working out here in the peach orchards, which is where I live currently. And not in Bali. I wasn't picking peaches in Bali.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can't all be in Bali.
Right. And I've always wanted to work for myself. I tried to do the corporate world at like a really young age, man. I started my first business at 20, and then I went into the corporate world. I just absolutely hated it. I hate being told what to do. I think that's I think of that as like the core of any entrepreneur, is we just hate being told what to do and on somebody else's schedule. I think there's a saying like, building somebody else's dream, as they say. So I did that for a couple of years, just really hated it. And finally at 25, I got the opportunity to start another business. And from like 25, man, I just got super focused. I was excited. Everything just took off. And by the time I was 31, 32, I was pretty much a multimillionaire. Not pretty much, I was. And, it was from construction. So I dealt with natural disasters like hurricanes, tornadoes, mostly hailstorms. Worked about 3 or 4 months down in Katrina when that hit. So anything that was like a major natural disaster, my company came in, negotiated, had my insurance license. I worked for insurance companies. I also worked as a contractor, depending on what the situation was, and just started making a bunch of money like immediately that first year. I only worked like 8 months, and I had made 3 times as much as I had made in the whole previous year, and I didn't even know what the hell I was doing. Yeah, it was just crazy. And I mean, the first month, at 25, I had a birthday, and then I moved on my birthday is April 8th, and I moved on the 10th. And that first month, I think I ended up making like $5,600, which was insane, because, up at that point, without a college education, man, I think the most I was bringing home was maybe like $3,000, $2,800, somewhere around in there, right? And so it just escalated like quickly over the next few years, and I was busting my butt. And don't get me wrong, it was hard work, extremely hard work. Nobody was getting me up in the morning but me, and getting out and working all day long. Right. I was focused. I'd found something I could really sink my teeth into. And during this time, the first couple of years, I started training people how to do this, and then just kept training more and more people. And eventually I came back to Denver, which was home, because at that time I had lived in Dallas, St. Louis, Chicago, Washington, D.C., just north of there, an area called Rockville that probably most people might be aware of, which is not too far from you, right? Ish.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Rockville's like, I don't know how far, but it's close. I don't know, within an hour.
Right, yeah, it's close, man. I'll tell you, dude, Washington and Maryland, just cool places to go live, dude. I got some crazy stories from that time, man. But, then moved to Chicago, Dallas, and then eventually a storm hit Denver, which is home, right? And that's about 3.5 hours that way. So You know, it took me home, and during that time, man, there was like 4 or 5 of us that I had trained, and we were up and rolling, and it just kept escalating, and it just kept getting better and better and better. And I had a business partner at the time, and we started bringing people on. And then by the time I said it was about 31, 32, is pretty much had multiple properties, opened up a real estate company at that point in time. We were buying and selling real estate in Aspen, California, New Mexico. Even in Europe, we bought a freaking timeshare, man.
Oh, wow.
We were just kind of balls to the walls, figuring out, driving the Porsches, getting all the watches, late nights, blah, blah, blah. And what happened eventually, dude, during all that, is, man, I lost sight of who I am. Partly, dude, it's because of the people I chose to start hanging around with. When I came home, started hanging around with some of the people, they weren't really good people to be hanging around with, and started making bad decisions, you know, and that just compounded and compounded. And basically by the time I was 38, I had pretty much chose bankruptcy and lost everything. And it all was kind of like the catalyst really was the '08 downfall, right? And obviously the housing market going up, 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 up and up. And then eventually one day, just obviously all of the people who knew exactly what they were doing behind the scenes when it comes to finances, you know, had pushed it so far. And was Sachs, all those people, man, they knew how much they were ripping everybody off, but we just fell into it because we're like, what's the one thing you heard at our age growing up as far as an investment, man, is invest into real estate. It never goes down.
Right.
Like, I heard that my entire life from everybody. So we invested quite a few $1 million into real estate. And when it all came crashing down, we lost about $2 million cash. It was like 1.8, 1.9, somewhere around in there. Plus all the leverage, which really wasn't our money, if you think about it, right? That leverage money. So needless to say, during that time, me and my business partner started fighting. I brought a couple other guys in. They couldn't figure it out. I brought another guy in, and in 1 year, he had me in 4 lawsuits in 2011. And I ended up losing one of those by the end of 2012. And so I just packed it in and basically chose bankruptcy and just said, I'm done. Because at that time, man, we were fighting over pennies. It was just fighting over pennies. You know, the cash cow was killed, and I was just holding on to something that I was like, oh my God, this is my baby, right? And as an entrepreneur, we have a tendency to do that. We have a tendency to hold on like, this is my baby and nobody else's baby, which is great. But how's the saying go? Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Right. And that's exactly what I was doing, man. And I'll tell you, that was a rough time. Ended up through bankruptcy for like 3 years. I mean, dude, when they went through bankruptcy, having all these assets and having all of these businesses, man, the courts, dude, they drag you through. Dude, those people are such assholes, dude. They sued my parents.
Jesus Christ.
Dude, right? What?
Yeah. That's messed up.
That's messed up, dude. And it was all because back in the day, about 5-6 years ahead of that, before that, pardon me, I bought an old 62 Corvette and I'd fixed it up, and me and my dad did some work on it, and I ended up giving it to him, which was years before I thought about bankruptcy. But at that point in time, everybody was like anti-corporations, when even small companies like ours, which were, you know, under 30, 40, 50 people at that time, is still considered a corporation, right? So I fell into those new laws that everybody was all up in arms about. So, you know, whatever. I call it the best shit sandwich I ever ate. And so, you know, dude, it sent me on this path. And the reality of it is, Paul, looking back, is that, man, I mean, to get real, to like super be real with you here, is the fact that, dude, between like 5 and 7 crazy things happened. My mom left my dad disappeared, my mom remarried, and then I started getting molested by my new stepbrother. And the reality of it, dude, is I was carrying all of that weight and shame forward. So when I got back into that party and into the scene, that was just like a weight that started coming back down that I'd spent all those years getting rid of.
Yeah.
And dude, I look back now, like, man, seriously, if we would have stayed on the path we were on during all of that, dude, I probably would have killed myself, because you couldn't keep 90, 100-hour weeks up. You can't keep up you know, and then it just led to like the drinking and the numbing on the weekend. And so never healthy, man, but necessary. And it's
a learning experience of, because I mean, some stuff just becomes normal. and you think like, well, of course I'm gonna, you know, maybe live that lifestyle or you know,
Right.
whether it be partying and all that. And it probably seemed like, yeah, this is just normal to me. It didn't seem at the time to be, okay, this might be a way to distract myself from real issues,
Right.
or prevent myself from having to confront what's going on. And I mean, I think a lot of people can resonate with that. I certainly can, of, you know, things that are distractions in your life that prevents you from growth. I think that's amazing to share, especially just with all that you had going on. And it sounded like you were living a lifestyle with, you know, having a very successful business, but then also getting with people who maybe didn't have your best interest in mind. But a lot of times it's hard to see like what those interests are. Like a lot of people will prop you up, be like, you know, you feel cool. You feel like, you know, who doesn't want to be like the life of the party? And that's what's so difficult, is that it can be very misleading, and seem totally fine. And if anything that I said was inaccurate to your story, you know, that's just my kind of thought on what you said versus what I've, you know, experienced a little bit in my life as well.
Oh, dude, spot on, man. Spot on. You know, it's from the outside, it looked perfect. The 911 Turbo, the watches, the $1 million loft. And it seemed like the dream lifestyle. And in many ways it was. But the reality is I was chasing towards like, I just need the next thing and I'll be happy. I just need to get to the next thing and I'll be happy. I just need to get to the next thing and I'll be happy. And the reality is that is a never ending dog chasing its tail situation. And there was purpose in the beginning, but then that purpose got lost. And yeah, man, I mean, not going to blame anybody for the decisions I made. Those were solely mine. Was my vision skewed? Yeah. Was my thought process not correct? Absolutely, man. And it was a false dream, because honestly, at the end of the day, when it got towards the end, there was no purpose other than just buy happiness. And man, I see it. You just see it today, even in the world today. And I don't know if this will ever go away. It's plaguing everybody. Is you see these guys, you know, with their cameras and they've got their Lamborghinis behind them, and they're bragging about how they just made $100,000 in 2 hours online, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and 90% of the time, those things are rented, and they're just renting the house, right? I mean, there's a very small few guys that are, and women for that fact, that are actually doing that stuff. So, you know, I bought into that, and the reality is, luckily, it all came crashing down, and that sent me on a whole nother journey, like this internal journey, like what makes me happy, who am I, how do I want to show up in this world, how do I want to create value for others, and just those esoterical questions that come with all that stuff. So that led to, man, me, you know, getting into self-development. And then that eventually led me about 5 years ago, diving into this online world, because, and that was like late 14, early 15. It was like, what is it everybody doing in this online world, man?
Yeah.
And long story short, I mean, dude, I just started learning and going to conference after conference and learning all this stuff and spending money and hiring people and failing miserably and having some success and then failing miserably more. And ultimately, man, that all led up to the point of this last year, 2019, man. And it really led to the idea of saying, okay, I've tried all these things. I learned SEO. I learned how to put together ads. I learned how to put together, you know, funnels and all that stuff. And really, so let me break it down like this. I call it MOTOFO. Like, looking back now, it's like, what's your message, your offer, your traffic, your funnel, your follow-up, and your optimization, right? Like those, the MOTOFO, man, like, and you just got to keep spin cycling that. And the reality was, once I got introduced to you, got introduced to all these people, you know, in this group we're in, the Facebook ads, cat house stuff, I realized, man, that, you know, traffic was not me. Like, there's too many people like you that just know what they're doing, that are way better than I will ever be at traffic or building funnels or linking software together or understanding, you know, why this goes to there. And dude, I just had the epiphany after paying, I think it was about 11 grand to be in our group, man. Not cheap, dude, by any stretch of the imagination, going through all the trainings and everything.
Yeah.
Learning a ton. Like, I have such a amazing base knowledge that just expanded from earlier. Ultimately, is that, dude, my true core genius is sales. And that's what I've done for 20 some years of my life. I've trained 200 reps you know, back in the day to do the construction and the real estate stuff. And probably another 75 to 100 in this online world. You know, at events, I taught it like at, you know, Bali or Thailand or Costa Rica, some of the places I was lucky enough to go and live and hang out. And ultimately, man, it came down to that motto of, like, again, the ultimate question: who am I? Who do I really want to be? What value do I really want to create? What is my strengths? You know, I really believe in the idea of hedging on your personal strengths and your core genius. And
Dude, I love that. Well,
right?
and it's not easy to know, because if again, going back to like what might blind you and seem to be positive, because I'm with you on that. Like, you know, this group that we're in, the Cat Howell group, is the most amazing folks and some of the most amazing content and knowledge. And I've had that thought of, you know, and it's funny you said that about me as the traffic person. I love Facebook ads. I love funnels. But I think I've had, with just in the past month or so, maybe like 2 months, like, where is my core genius and what do I just love doing? And I realized months ago, like a while back, and I just didn't have the confidence or clarity to focus on it. It's like, and basically I'm living out that dream, like just the past couple weeks of this conversation right here. Like if everything that I did was me making content videos for myself, like me talking directly to the camera, or like some of the other stuff that you've probably seen of me talking to myself to like have a silly, fun video that's also informative, but also like connecting with cool, interesting people and recording it and just being like, you know, a lot of good information is going to come from that. And even if nothing happens, like, I find the conversation to be inherently valuable, especially when talking to people who have an interesting story, which I believe everyone does, whether they realize it or not. But having that openness to share, like, hey, here's how I wasn't successful. And that's a loaded phrase, because obviously you're very successful. There is success in your path and journey if you take it holistically. I think, you know, also a lot of what society tells us, especially entrepreneurs, and I think a fallacy a lot of beginning entrepreneurs fall into, I certainly did in my first business, was like, you have to be batting 100, to use a baseball reference, like, or you have to be always saying, hey, everything is great, business is great. It seemed to be not very acceptable to talk about your struggles, your difficulties, your challenges, and your failures. And that was a major thing for me. I think a lot of people experience that in the form of imposter syndrome. And the concept I thought of, I spoke at a Creative Mornings event last year. You know, a lot of people connect on, hey, you're in business? Sweet, me too. All right, we now have rapport, we're now friends. Or, hey, you lived in Virginia, also me too. Whatever kind of similarities, and that's a fine way to connect with people. But also, like, you can get a lot of deep rapport quickly and gain get a lot of great insights, friendships, whatever it may be, in a lot of ways by connecting on those failures. Like, hey, you went through some struggles early on and went through all that. Yeah, same. Like, it's tough to talk about, but it's true. Like, or even like, oh, you had your heart broken, at some point by somebody. Like, I'm sure a buttload of people can relate to that, but you don't want to talk about it because people are afraid to overshare. But in a lot of ways, if you connect on those struggles and those quote failures, it's a great way to do that. So, and having been a person who was very closed, didn't like to talk about my feelings or express myself. Now I'm like, no, I want to do that. I'm very much into like, yeah, let's just have a cool chat. But it's also about that growth, because in the end, that I think that's what matters. I think that's what's important, because I mean, you've had it, you've lived that, and it's true. Like, and it's tough to tell someone, especially I think for guys to fall into that trap in their 20s and seeing like, yeah, I want the cars and I want the prestige and I want the watches and the partying and just live that glamour lifestyle while also being a successful business person. If you're always chasing that next thing, you can never be happy. And I remember in the first business I had, it was like, okay, once I get all this done, then I'll have nothing left to worry about for a little bit, and then I can relax. Well, once I got all those things done, dude, I could not relax ever. I would be on vacation with my family, be on holiday, and no matter what, like, there was always something extra to worry about, to get anxious over. And I was like, this sucks. Like, I feel like I'm trapped and that I can never relax or enjoy or feel at peace. And to me, that's what I now go for. I'm like, how much am I at peace? And what do I think about myself when I'm by myself? Like, when I wake up in the morning, am I immediately stressed and thinking, oh, fuck, like today's going to suck. I got all these problems. Or do I think I'm excited to be alive? Like, I'm excited for the things I can do and the people I can connect with and the impact I can have. So to me, that's what my North Star is. And it took the struggles that I've gone through, a lot previously. And then really just this past year of getting into digital marketing, of going full on into, the digital space, of even more challenges and things that I've had to adapt and grow into. But I completely resonate with what you said about knowing. So, I mean, you didn't say knowing your why. That's a Simon Sinek thing, but you touched on that concept of doing things for yourself and not for others, or for the look, or for the, all the surface level stuff.
Dude, I love it, man. You're spot on. I really hear you loud and clear, man. You touched on like 2 or 3, I think, very important things. And I really think that we have 2 whys as a human being. We have our personal why and we have our human why. And it's to be very clear about what both of those are, because some days, most days, if we're being truthful, right? Like, my personal why gets me out of bed. Last night there was a guy, Brandon Hawk, who posted on Facebook. He's like, what makes you feel like the most human, or makes you feel like the most successful, or whatever? And I was like, what makes me feel the most human is when I'm actually have a hand in helping somebody get further ahead in their life and I see them succeed. That it makes me feel the most human, because I believe inherently at the core level of who we are, we're just here to help other people live better lives. I just think that's why we're here, man.
Yeah.
And the more we can do that, the more value we create, the more people's lives we can touch. And it's interesting because what you talked about, the baseball analogy, right? And really it's like, and we think they got to be batting 1,000, right? But the reality is the best baseball players that are bat like 300 or 280, which is 3 out of 10 times, get paid millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But that's really looked at like a failure in the real world. Like, oh, that's only 25, 30%, man. And that stuff is mind blowing, dude. And to me, it really comes back around to that last thing that you were talking about, is that real connection with people. And it's the empathy. It's being able to really empathize with the person across from you and connect with them and be who you are and show up and be real. Like, this is who I really am. These are the things that happened to me. It doesn't make me who I am. But these are the things that happened to me in my past. These are the things I'm struggling through, because, dude, everybody is fighting a battle that nobody can see, right?
Oh, yeah.
Every single day, man. And usually that battle's ourselves. It's the lies our brain is telling us, right? I'm not worthy. I'm not enough. Like,
Yeah.
I'll never get ahead. And the reality of it is, man, it's where this all came into my motto for 2020 was really like, okay, like you said, like I had to have, like, I need to come to like, what is my real core genius? What is my real why? What is my purpose? How can I affect more people and create real value instead of trying to be this imposter syndrome, right? Like, loving to learn all this digital stuff, and I'm grateful for that base foundation of amazing intelligence and understanding and stuff. But the reality of it is, man, I was like, it's time to stop chasing and start being, right? Like, stop chasing all these things that I'm not, trying to beat them, and just start being like, this is who I am. And dude, just within the last, I mean, that all happened right at the end of last year, reflection of the year. I think a big part of that was like, this is a new decade. Where do you, have you seen the Matthew McConaughey, all right, like, all right. Like, who do you want to be in 10 years? And he's like, I want to be me. I want to be my better self in 10 years. And it really came down to like, okay, you know what, dude, I'm really good at sales. I'm really good at training people how to do sales. How do I take that strength, that core genius, and how do I apply it to this digital world? And what's crazy, dude, I joined Stan Wei's group. And
just love Stan Way more than like most people.
He's awesome. He's awesome, man. And he's a consummate salesman at heart. He just is, and I love that.
He is, and I've tried to explain him to my younger brother is like kind of in sales and just other people, and I'm like, dude, you've got to like meet this guy, and he just does not seem like like if you have a poster of like the traditional salesperson, whatever what comes to mind when you think of someone good at sales, like Stan isn't that, but he is like, but he's, I don't know, and he just operates from such a core place of giving and caring that, like, dude, I'm like clay in his hands. Like he can tell me to do something and I would do it, but I also know that like he's looking out for me. He's gonna tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear.
Huge.
But anyway, yeah, a little brand on him. Like I'm like his hugest fan.
Dude, me too, brother. I'm right there with you, man. And I think like 30-ish, 28 people joined this group when we had our first meeting, right? And dude, he's just full of life and energy and giving and just cares and just is real. And he's like, probably by the end you guys get done with this course, there'll be a couple of you that don't want to own an agency. And I put in the chat, like, I don't want to own an agency, and I already know that coming in because I joined this group so I could just be closer to Stan and learn from his sales and just embody all of the amazing attributes he has, because he's truly the sales type person that I would love to emulate, right? And he just started laughing, dude. And because he's like, yeah, there's our first one already. He's like, shit, it usually only happens at the end, but now there's already one in the very beginning. And it was just cool, man, because since then, which was I think pretty much the beginning of December is when that all started. And now, dude, I've been into more wonderful and great conversations with people about sales, doing sales for people, bringing leads to people, the whole 9 yards. And it's like the doors are just like opening up because I'm staying in my core genius.
Yeah.
You know? And that's not me chasing. That's just me being. Like,
yeah,
this is who I am.
And it's tough to do like in business, because if you think about opportunities you have to, especially starting out, of how are you going to make money? How are you going to make revenue to make a profit? Like, I mean, we're not charities here. Like we got bills to pay and families to support, and lives to live. But it's such a physical feeling of that idea of almost like opportunity cost of what you learn in, economics 101, that when you choose your core genius, there's a part of you saying, wait, but if you do this, you're closing other doors. You're limiting other options that you can have. And it feels like you're boxing yourself in a limiting way, but it's actually, and you've already touched on, like, it's so counterintuitive, but your body's going to try to convince you otherwise. And that it's taken me about a year to be like, like, and everything I'm doing, been doing, I'm going to continue to do in a certain way. And it's made me money. Like, I've lived completely off freelancing and contracting for a year, but I knew I'm like you. I was like, I can't see myself getting into an agency and being that top 0.1% of media buyers and agencies for it. So what is my competency? And it is creating content, creating video content, and I love writing. I love copywriting and all that. So how do I use that? How do I use that to express? And so that's where I'm trying to see is that's something I can package up and sell, of, hey, if you need video content, I can help be your creative director as like a fractional thing. And that just came on the spot. That's not actually a bad idea.
That's awesome, man.
But leading in, like, yeah. So it's like, hey, I can do this for you. Here's what I'm best at, and that's creating stories around businesses. The more boring your business is, the better I can do. I can just get weird and funny with anything. So leading with that, I can still have all the tools and knowledge that I've gained over the past. I mean, I've been in the cat house community for almost 2 years now, but this last year, the last year's been 100% full time. And again, I have that toolbox at my disposal that I can then take what I create with somebody of figuring out what their offer, their persona, their buyer persona, their features and benefits of the product, and then structure it in a way that's going to be very compelling to a new customer, and then launch it and amplify that with all the knowledge I have of running ads and creating funnels. But then if I'm like, if I had to do a couple things all day, every day, it'd be what we're doing now, and bringing almost like a sales, but ideally then having folks that I contract out to, of like, hey, these brilliant geniuses are going to be running the ads. I'm going to do the creative side of it, and then just keep making content videos, because that's what I just love doing. and it feels like alive. Like when you connect, like, you know, when you feel connected, like it feels like,
yeah, it feels real.
I don't know, like beyond just
Yeah,
the expression, like literally when you connect two pieces and it just clicks, that's what it feels like. It's pretty cool.
Dude, you hit on a couple things, man. I think you're spot on, like that counterintuitive piece, like, because so much of society and what we grew up with is like, you don't have this, so you need to go learn this skill or learn this thing. And there's some truth in that. But then it gets to the point, I think, as an entrepreneur, it's like, oh my gosh, I got to double down on all these things I don't know so I can try and keep up with everybody and study this. And the reality of it is, man, I believe, and this year will be a 100% testament, because it'll be the first year I'm truly getting back to just sales and doing sales. And of course, there's other stuff, leads and sales that come with that. But it's just doubling down on my core genius, man, and letting things align themselves. And I believe that to be true because it's already happening. Like I've been in like 10 conversations already, or people are like, yes. I've got more yeses in the last 30, 60 days, with like 2 weeks off for Christmas, almost 3 weeks off for Christmas, than I pretty much have had like the last last year. It's just mind blowing. And
oh, wow.
I think that is just a testament of like pure alignment. Going, no, I have a base knowledge of this. I need to learn that, but I don't need to sink my time into learning something that I'm just not going to be that great at. There's this kid, I call him a kid only because he's 22, but there's a man who's 22 that's, I don't think he's in the mastermind, but his name is Tom, and I want to say Babic, Babiece, and he's an e-com guy, dude. And he's been literally running ads since he was 14.
Damn.
I know, you think about that. He in 8th grade, he's a Polish kid, guy. No, I shouldn't call him a kid. He's a Polish guy, and dude, his whole family's entrepreneurs, so he was raised around that whole inherent thing, which is just amazing to be around. And he wrote like a paper and entered a contest in 8th grade. And he took 2nd place, and some lady handed him a business card. And long story short, she's like, I want to work with you. And he's like, I'm 14. I don't even know what I'm doing. And that was like his first Google pay-per-click campaign. And then he went to university. And now, dude, he's helping. He said in the last 2.5 years, he's signed up about 25 people. 5 of them he's took to basically 7 figures. 5 he's taken to high 6 figures. 5 he's taken to mid 6 figures, and 5 they broke even, then 5 didn't really go anywhere. We just kind of broke it down to 5s. And yet at the same time, dude, he's not really super comfortable with sales. Like, it's not his forte. But I'm like going, dude, the amount of results you are getting people at 22 is mind blowing.
Yeah.
Like, to me, as a person who's inherent about sales and connection with people, is like, dude, this should be the easiest thing in the world for you to talk about, but he just doesn't have that in him, right? But he has a certain core genius, man, and I think that's just a testament of like doubling down. And because I really think it comes back to, dude, have you watched the Frank Kern video from back in the day, the old school one?
Yeah. And that was a recommendation of Stan's, and
yes.
That, and then creating my perfect day from it. I mean, that I can almost pinpoint when that was. I mean, I think that was like beginning of November, and then I just had this like major like revelation of like, be truthful, speak the truth. And then it just helped. What it was like a moment that freed me from worrying about what others think, worrying about how good is what I'm saying, how valuable is it, just like these unconscious kind of limitations that you have. And for the past few years, I would be like, yeah, I don't care what people think, I just do my thing. Well, I'm better at it than I was, and God bless me, in my like high school, college years, I really gave a fuck, like way too many of them. But like, and I thought I got out of that, and I'm like, no, there's like still inhibitors on me that prevent me from acting in my best true self. And then just having watched that video, continuing to focus on myself and visualizing what I want and being clear on that helped me kind of break away additional, like, again, limitations that I had on how I want to express. And I just felt amazing. A little bit of a, insight on, but yeah, and it all, I think the catalyst was that video and the exercise that came with it.
Dude, it's a great video, man. And the thing that was in 2012, which is when I went to my first Jack Canfield conference, and they were teaching, and a lot of that stuff is all based on NLP, right? And now what they know is neuroplasticity, where they're rewiring the brain, right? And which is obviously, I think, super amazing, dude. I'm reading a book, meaning I'm listening to a book. I'm actually, dude, I'm reading this book right here. I don't know, is that
Oh, bro. I read
The
that,
Alchemist, man.
Last summer.
Dude, I love this book, man. And I think I've read it about 6 times. I think it's like 6 times now. But he says, listen to your heart. And this is on page 132, because, it's when the boy meets the alchemist and he's taking him across the desert, right? And basically he's saying, listen to your heart. It knows all things because it came from the soul of the world. And it will one day return there. Because wherever your heart is, that is where you'll find your treasure. And man, it's really, the treasure is in the daily stuff, right? Because dude, 80% of our life is the daily stuff. I mean, 20% is the fun and the party and the moments of glory and all of the crazy things, right? But there's really, it's the 80% of the day-to-day stuff. But another book I'm listening to is by Brendon Burchard, and I love this. I wrote the question down. It's called High Performance Habits, which is also suggested by Stan. Which I'll be honest, I haven't been a huge Brendon Burchard fan, but I'm becoming one. I'm really liking what he talks about in this book. And he says, every day in the shower, he says, what can I get most excited or enthusiastic about today? And I think when you're in alignment, like you were saying, you get excited to get out of bed instead of this, oh man, I gotta get out of bed today. It's like, I gotta get out of bed today, right?
Yeah. What's fascinating of when you said that about Brendon, like, and I've been meaning to get his book. I like the guy. I don't consume a lot of his content though.
Right.
A lot of people are trying to find, like, and health and fitness is insanely important. It's like, need to get more energy, eat better so that I can have this energy in the afternoons, maybe when I get tired or fatigued, or just be able to do the work. But like, and there was a time when I was doing that. Like, I was eating good. I was exercising consistently. And I'm like, I'm drinking plenty of water, staying hydrated. I'm like, but why am I still dragging? Like, if you don't also have those things that you yourself can get excited for, that when you start working on them, time stops. You just are in complete focus and you don't want to do anything else. That itself, that activity is giving that energy and it's finding that. So the most freeing thing, that it sucks because, like, there's a lot of weight behind the expression, take responsibility. You hear that as a child. You don't want to be told that. It implies no fun. Take responsibility is usually, oh, I did something bad that I wasn't supposed to do. I got to take responsibility for it. But if you look at the flip side, you take responsibility for all the great things in your life. Take responsibility for the fact that you can create better things by better actions and better thoughts. So by taking responsibility for the bad, you can also do the good. And I think if we're taking responsibility for our own energy and the energy to act, I mean, I'm not getting like woo on energy and auras. I don't have a problem with that, but I'm talking about like the energy it takes to start and complete a task. Yeah. It's not just, oh, I hope today I feel that energy because I've eaten right, I've drank water, I've exercised. Again, you totally should do that, but take responsibility for where am I going to focus my thoughts on to help energize me. It's like when you're a child and your parents are like, hey, we're going to the theme park, or we're going to take you and your brothers to the arcade. You get pumped for it. You think about that activity and you get excited for it. And we lose that as we become adults, but it's like, why can't we continue to tap into that ability? Like, yeah, I'm excited. Like, I'm excited to work today and do these tasks, just, like what Brendon was saying. That'll drive you. That'll drive your energy and actions, and just how you show up to sales calls or meetings, or life is one big choose your own adventure. Yeah. Every time you make a choice, is it going to take you closer where you want to go? And if you're feeling pumped for, okay, I know what I want to do and where I want to be, you're going to always choose the action that's going to propel you that way, as opposed to, I'm just going to watch some stupid video on YouTube, or I'm going to scroll Instagram for an hour, or whatever might be distracting for you. But I love that. I definitely need to check that book out.
Dude, there's something I want to touch on here, and I have a question for you, because dude, what he talks about in The Alchemist is going after your personal legend. And I do my best to be fully present in the moment, like here we are right now. And I constantly tell myself to breathe, because I get all excited about things we're talking about, right? But I truly know, I truly know that at the end of the day, when I feel like I'm moving towards something better, then I feel like I'm living a life. I'm going after my personal, legend, as they call it. I call it the quest. I'm on a mission, whatever you want to call it, right? And so that leads me to the question for you, man, is because I hear what you're talking about is mindset routine. So do you have a current mindset or a morning routine that you do every day?
Yeah. And I've been sadly out of the loop basically from week of Christmas, holidays, New Year's, and then I had this cold that I'm just finally shaking. Yeah. But I was in a great habit of, as creative, I'd get up at 6 a.m., throw some clothes on, drink some water real quick, and then walk around my neighborhood for 30 minutes. And it'd be a brisk walk. Sometimes I'd listen to videos that were inspiring, but then other times I just like being open with my thoughts and that practice of being present. Like, okay, I'm gonna fully observe the things around me and the sights and all the senses that come from it. Then I'd get back, drink some coffee, continue drinking water, and read through my perfect day. That I wrote out. And then I got Brendon Burchard's journal, habit journal type thing. Yeah. So I would go through that to write a checklist of things I wanted to do today and all the questions that, what are you looking for today? How do you bring it? All the stuff that goes on within that journal. And then that was really priming to feel cool and feel good and energized to then I kind of blend visualization and meditation in. So for me, meditation is just not looking at anything and just focusing on my thoughts of what thoughts I want to entertain. And I would focus on here's where I want to be, what I want life to look like. So it's a blend of the two. I don't really know the difference there's a lot of different types of meditation, but just, being quiet and not having any other stimulus except for the thoughts in my head. And while doing that, again, visualizing. I've touched on some affirmations, which I find to be valuable. But I do that. That takes about a little over an hour because the walking part itself is 20 to 30 minutes. But that was my routine, and that I'm looking forward to start again. And it's fantastic.
That's awesome, man. I know what you're talking about by shaking that routine, man. Not shaking the cold, dude. It was 3 weeks as of yesterday that I finally shook that cold, man. It was crazy, dude. I spent 5 days before Christmas in bed with the flu. I couldn't even leave bed. It was crazy. So I get it, man. I feel like today was although I worked all last week, pardon me as I cough now. I feel like today is the first official day of the year. Even though I was working, I just feel like myself. I got up, dude. And, I think that routine for me is priceless. Something that obviously everybody says if you do something for 21 days, it really changes your mind. But the reality, the real number is it takes 66, 67 days to change the pathways in your head to generate this new way of being, which is, I didn't know this, but that's actually why Ty Lopez sold his program. It was 66 steps to social media or something like that. There was technically 300, but that's why he created that program. And actually I learned that from Stan. But dude, I think that's something that's important. Here's how I really feel about the day, man. If I wake up, I usually wake up naturally anywhere between 4:30 and 5:30. That's just kind of my body, just the alarm clock goes off. Yeah. And it just starts slowly waking up, For me, I like to listen to something in bed, and then I like to just do my own visualizations from bed. Then I get up, make a cup of coffee, journal, work out, stretch. I'll do some standing meditation or something. And then I'll dive into work, and then I'm off for the day. But point I'm sharing that is this because it's my morning routine. But dude, I feel as if the only thing I get done today, bare minimum, is my morning routine, that I'm still winning.
Right.
Because that gets me connected with me. And that is the most important thing I want to do every day, is get connected with my soul, get connected with my spirit, get in alignment with me. And I really think that's a huge deal. And I think it's the absolute way. You got to like win the morning to win the day. And the days that I don't do that routine, dude, like my whole day is like all over the place. My head's all over the place. Can't think straight. Words are having a hard time, you know, coming out of my mouth. It's just crazy, man.
Yeah. Well, and that whole thing is almost like, I feel like as close to fact as it can possibly be. If you talk to anybody who is a high performer and successful, they're going to do it. And of course, yeah, there's going to be exceptions, but you look at what the content that like Inc. magazine and Fast Company, like all these like sources that are like, here's what all the top CEOs do. They all have a morning routine, or like, you know, prominent politicians or whoever who has achieved a ton of success has that. And it's the concept of like, of making yourself a priority, because then you can't just, it's a practice to showing up and doing good things, because when, you know, you're at that meeting, or you have that sales call, or you're in a networking event, like you can't just suddenly be like, oh, now I have to be cool and normal and nice or whatever. It's like, no, you can just be who you are, because you've chosen yourself. You've chosen to make yourself a priority, to improve on your mind state. And again, everything is a choose your own adventure. And so if you're bringing that best thing through, and that can, or if you're doing that work on yourself to practice to be at the best you can be, and that carries through your whole day, well, your outcomes are going to be, you know, far more successful. You know, if to use that baseball example again, you know, if all your batting is 300, but you consistently bat 300 over the course of the time, like, dude, you're an insanely rich and successful baseball player. And I think in life, like if you're looking at every like situation and opportunity you have to be your best self, yeah, you're not going to be, you know, maybe you're actually hitting 50%. And you're like, man, half the time had the best reaction, or I did the best thing that I possibly could in that situation. The other half, not so great. But that's a recipe for success. You don't have to. So if you can just like leverage that from, okay, instead of living life like, regret what I said to this person, I wish I had done this, wish I had done that. Well, imagine if just 5% more of those interactions are in your favor. And again, it just makes life more fun. Like, I don't even know, like, I feel like we're talking like a lot of success principles, but it just makes life fun and more enjoyable to live. So like, I'm not like, only 32 more days till my vacation, and I can only be happy on my vacation. Then I got to go back to work and everything sucks. Like, dude, I mean, call me selfish. I want every day to be awesome. I just do.
Yeah.
I want my, you know, just me being at home, working by myself to be fun. When I go to the grocery store and I interact with the cashier or go to the coffee shop, I want to, you know, I want that to be fun and enjoyable, and not have to think like, oh, this sucks. I can't believe, you know, having that stress and worry in your mind. It's not fun. So I don't know.
Dude, it's not, man. And you're touching on, you know, it's perception, right? Like, I feel like perception and moderation are so important things in life, man. And it's like, it's easy to look at like all the things that didn't go right in my life, you know, and like blame myself for them or blame other people, whatever. And the reality of it is, dude, is it's the day I want to be around me because I like being with me. I like the person who I am at the end of the day, right? I may not always say the right thing. I may not always do the right thing, but you know, at the end of the day, man, I really like, you know, hanging with me. And for years, I didn't like hanging with me. I couldn't stand myself. I wanted to get away. And then it was like, after I turned all of those past stories into like, look at all the amazing things I've accomplished and the things I've done with my life, as opposed to like, those were the things that were dragging me down, those weights. I always describe it. It's like, do you remember the old Italian movies back in the day, dude, where they'd be like, you're going to be swimming with the fishes, Johnny, swimming with the fishes, right? And they would give them the concrete shoes, right? And they would throw them in the water, and then that's how they would sink and die. And I feel like that's kind of what is a great metaphor for our emotions, because I was like fighting to like get my head above water when I had all these concrete shoes that were dragging me down. And once I had a chance to recognize like, shit, man, I got concrete shoes on and I'm trying to swim. I can't even breathe. And do my best to knock those things off and chip away. And now that once my head's above water, it's like, oh, cool, I can breathe. Now I can start saying, okay, cool, I'm going to choose to go to that island because they look like they're having a lot of fun and partying. Or I can go over to that island because it looked like they're accomplishing something, right?
Dude, that's an amazing metaphor that you seem to have just done on the spot, which is a phenomenal way of just connecting that.
It's like life. I feel like life is like this constant metaphor, right?
Yeah.
And that's the perception piece. Dude, I'll tell you, back in this would have been 2000, I think it was really 12. I mean, I lost the lawsuit at the end of 2012, and I went to Jack Cantlin at the end of that year, and we were doing an exercise. And the exercise was like a meditation, go back to a time in your life where things were really happening and everything was going great. What were you doing? And, this is like a 15-minute exercise or whatever it was. And he was like, and then write it down. And dude, I realized at that time when I was the happiest and I was making money, I was really helping other people out. It was like this team associated situation. And, the quote that stuck in my mind during that time and that really made me kind of think about, wow, I got to live my life a different way, was Albert Einstein when he said, try and not be a man or woman of success, but try and rather be a man or woman of value.
Yeah.
And it was like, man, that's how I need to start living my life, because at the end of the day, it's about the people. It's about the connections. I feel the most human when we're doing this stuff. Like, this is the stuff I love to do. What do you love to do? I love to talk to people all day.
Yeah.
Because that's where it's at,
It is, and it helps. Like, I mean, all the things that I think we've spoken on, like, they're simple and easy once you kind of had that mental breakthrough and you're like, why did I not get this years ago? And that's why I love, like, that metaphor of like the weighted, the shoes with cement in them. Like, dude, you've been running around with cement in your shoes and scrambling and you didn't even realize your shoes had cement in them. And so I don't know. I think it's, having those conversations and again, if someone's watching, it's like, what the fuck does this have to do with business? Like, dude, this got everything to do with business. Because if like what you said with Albert Einstein, like, dude, if you're being a valuable person or valuable business, that's how you make money. People will pay you for your value. So be valuable instead of chasing that value, to kind of loop in your 2020 metaphor, which I'll tell you mine that I realized I haven't solidified it yet, but you've motivated me and inspired me that I'm going to write this down. Is I want, living a life of possibility and seeing things that, like, so if before, when I'm like, oh, that's not possible, that's not how things are done, that's not how you can become a successful business, my thought process now that to blast that away is like, I believe in a life of possibility. I believe that anything can happen. And so I'm not going to just say that's dumb and ignore it. I'm going to see where might I find value by whatever is being put out there. And that's just a very liberating way to live. And there's a lot of my life where I lived a life of, here are the rules, here's how things get done, follow the rules, be good and all that. And if something didn't align with whatever rules I had been told, then I didn't see any other possibility out there. So that's been a very freeing thing. I guess I do need to wrap up to hop on another call, but relate real quick so we can, and I can see what I'll do is edit this part, maybe put in a little trailer, but like your whole thing, sales being your core genius, your core competency, to use another term, relate that with stop chasing it and start being. How have you seen that that expression that's been your mantra for 2020? How can someone who's watching this take that and boost their sales results as a result of it?
Man, I think that's a great question, first of all, dude. And I really think it boils back down to, like, what is your core beliefs and your core values, right? Like, are you trying to show up and just sell somebody something, or are you trying to show up and serve them? Because that's really two different places of coming from. And that's all going to stem back to your core beliefs, your core habits. And when you understand your whys, your two whys, why I'm here to serve you and why I'm here to serve myself, and see if we can put something together and show up, man, that's going to make all the difference in how that sale comes across. And I think you couple that with the second piece of sales is being completely detached from the outcome, and being there to serve. And when you can do those two things, you really hold that space for people to either say yes to move forward or no, and great, no worries, on to the next. And I think that those two things, man, is understanding your why, your values, and why you're truly there to help that person, and being able to hold that real space for them of like, this is where you're at, this is where you want to be, and there's this big gap in between, and I can help you bridge that gap, but this is what it's going to cost you. Is this something you want to change in your life? Because there's something they don't want to change, or they don't want to face, or they don't want to see, and they've been ignoring it, and now it's time for any person to show up and be truthful with them. Like, this is what I'm here to do.
Yeah. And what's fascinating, just real quick last thought of, if you are serving, like if someone's buying something from you, like inherently they're going to be going through a change, whether it's, hey, this is a new software we're going to have to do our payroll or to do our accounting. You got to be there to serve them of like, I'm going to be here to help you navigate this change, because that's what people are truly afraid of. You talk about getting people's pain points, but like inherently everyone's afraid of change. So if someone knows that like this person is not only selling me a great product or service, but they're going to be serving me and helping me adapt to the new realities I'm going to be facing, I think that's a very powerful thing.
Dude, it's experience and transformation. They're paying you for an experience of something they haven't had before, and that's a transformation that happens inside of them, some way, shape, form, or another. And that's what they're there to buy. So it's you facilitating that experience for them.
That's awesome. Dude, I think that's a great place to wrap up, man. Dude,
oh, cool.
This was amazing. We'll definitely need to do it again. I think,
Dude,
a lot of cool stuff come from it.
Absolutely, brother. Thanks for letting me be here, man. It's a great idea, dude. Maybe a podcast is in your future, dude.
I think so. I mean, I'm not calling it as such, but like you're one of the very first of this video chat that is going to be put out into the world. And yeah, a podcast I think is there. Actually, probably just be a few little tweaks I need to make. But dude, I think it's just great getting everyone's insight on struggles and then value that they're providing. I think a lot of I certainly could have benefited from it years back. So that's my hope.
Man. Well, cool, brother. Well, let me know when this is going to come out and all that fun stuff. And obviously, I'll just promote it on my page or wherever it's at. So.
Yeah, man. Sweet. Yeah, well, I'll connect with you on Messenger about it. I think I should probably have it something kind of a little bit condensed.
Right.
By Wednesday, I've got a pretty open schedule, man. But this was tight. I really enjoy it. I'm glad you were here.
Dude, I loved it, man. We should keep doing stuff like this, dude. This is what it's about.
Absolutely. All right, Dick.
All right, brother, man. Talk to you soon, dude. Take care.
All right, later.
Aloha.